Today I'm beginning a series of talks called The Art of Being Christian. Being Christian is not an act, it is an art. And perhaps by today's talk, which is called Let Go and Let God, may illustrate this in a way that helps you to understand what this series is all about. A number of years ago, I have to say I was lost. I had just finished my undergraduate work at college, and I was not sure what to do with my life. I think all people come to this stage in life where it's a type of crisis. Often this happens when you're young. And I was about 21 years old, and I was looking for some direction in life. I had returned home where I grew up. I actually owned about 40 head of dairy cattle because I grew up on a dairy farm. We had one of the best herds in the country. I started with a few calves, and eventually, by the time I was out of high school and into college, I had a small herd of dairy cattle. It was about the only thing I knew how to do. So I returned home and took my 40 head of cattle and joined a friend of my father's with his dairy herd and farm and began the life as a simple farmer. Still, I knew that this was not my real purpose in life, but I didn't know what else to do. It was a summer day. I'd been on the farm about 6 months, and I walked out to the pasture to bring in some heifers. And I don't know how else to explain it, but I heard what I call the voice of God. Now, I suppose if anybody else had been standing there, they would not have heard the voice, but I heard it as loud and clear as if somebody was standing just a few feet away from me. And this is how it happened. I saw a log sitting in the field. It had been washed up by a flood from the nearby riverbank. And on that log were 2 robins. These are small birds with red chests. And as I approached the log, I thought at first that maybe they weren't real, or maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. Because, as you know, when you approach a bird, it will fly away, particularly when you get into their space. These 2 birds did not fly away, and I approached the log closer and closer and began to stare at them, trying to figure out if they were real or not. They seemed to be frozen on the log, and then suddenly I heard a sound. I looked up, and there was a hawk, a large predatory bird, ready to fly down, which it did, and it grabbed one of the birds into its talons, and then it began to fly away. And just then, I heard a voice, and it said, "What you believe is what you see." All my life, I had been operating on the opposite principle. What I see is what I believe. And then the voice said it again. What you believe is what you see. Suddenly, at that moment, two crows large blackbirds began to fly in from the left side and attack the hawk, which now dropped the robin lifeless to the ground. For a third time, the voice said, "What you believe is what you see. If you believe the world to be a bad place, you will see the crows coming in to steal away the life of the robin, to steal away a common food. If you believe the world to be good, you will see the crows coming in to save the life of the robin. What you believe is what you see." From that day on, my whole world was turned upside down by that voice. I knew that my beliefs shaped what I see. It shaped the way I approach academics. It shaped the way I read the Bible. It shaped the way that I saw the world. Instead of believing what I see, now my belief shaped what I see. What you believe is what you see, not what you see is what you believe. I knew then and there that I needed to sell my dairy herd and return to college, to take a new path of life. That voice shook me to my core. When I got back to the barn with these cows I was bringing in, there, standing in the barn, was a father and daughter from Idaho, a nearby state. And they said, "We hear you want to sell your dairy herd." I hadn't even thought about it until that moment when I encountered the voice in the field. I hadn't even mentioned it, of course. But suddenly, here were two people who received some false information and came to my farm thinking I was ready to sell my dairy herd. And I was. We talked a few minutes, shook hands, agreed upon a price, and the next week those cows were gone, and I now had enough money to return to college. And from then on, my life was changed. You see, not everyone will have a moment when they hear the voice of God. Not everyone will have a dramatic moment like this. But something will happen in some way, somehow, when you know that God is speaking to you. It could come from words in a book. It could come from words somebody is saying to you. But at a critical point in your life, when you're searching, when you're lost, like I was, you will hear the voice of God. And that is part of letting go and letting God.